So we have finished the first 3 months of 2024, and let's talk about all of my favorite books that came out of the first quarter, and I hope that you find some new books to read. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the first quarter of 2024, some of my favorite books. I think I have about 7 here to go over with you. Before we get into that list, remember that we are still in April, so you can head on over to my community tab and participate in the random acts of kindness this month for my birthday month. And also make sure that you check my description box below for all of my links to my Bookish Box Ambassador site, where you can find some really good t-shirts. They just had a mystery sale, and you could buy a t-shirt and get a mystery shirt, so buy one get one free. I definitely participated in that. And you can also find my Patreon, my Pango Books account, and my socials all linked down below. So let's get into the books that are my absolute favorites so far this year. So the first 3 that I'm going to talk about, I don't own physically. I am hoping to own them physically very, very soon. The first one is called Queen of Roses by Briar Bolin. This was an ARC read that I picked up probably at the beginning of April. I didn't have anything on my NetGalley, so I saw that the entire series was available, and it's 4 books. This is the first book in the Blood of a Fae series, I believe is what it's called, and it is good, you guys. You are following our main girl, who is the sister of the king. She's like a princess, and she was supposed to be the one that ruled, but her father had named her like not worthy of the throne, I think. So it passed on to her brother, and she also has a little brother that she takes care of. Now, she keeps taking these concoctions every other day that dwindle her, make her feel sick, make her feel very lethargic and whatnot, and she doesn't understand why she has to take it. Then she is sent on a quest by her brother to none other than finding Excalibur. Yes, the King Arthur Excalibur, because her brother's name is Arthur. This is an Arthurian legend retelling, but it's not really a retelling, but it is very steeped in Arthurian lore. So good. It has fae in it. It has a war, has romance. It has so many things. So if you like Arthurian legends, if you like fantasy romances with fae, highly suggest picking this up. It is so good. I am currently on book 3, which is Empress of Fae, and I can't even tell you what it's about because it would run so much, but definitely go check it out. The next one that I'm going to talk about is The Other Side of the Mirror by Dana Evan. Do you remember back in March whenever I went through this horrible book slump and didn't know how to get out of it? So I picked up an ARC off NetGalley. This was the ARC, and it 100% got me out of my book slump. You're following our girl who doesn't have any parents. Her parents were killed early on. You find that out in the very first chapter. She did have a brother, but she thinks her brother is dead as well. So she was raised by her friend and her friend's family, where her friend's family also died. So it's just her and her friend going through life. They went through college. Now she's on her way to get, I think, her master's degree. But her father, whenever she was younger, taught her how to fight, taught her about politics, taught her a lot of different things that she didn't think she was ever going to need. Well, lo and behold, she goes home. There's a golem in her house. She is having to fight the golem. There's a mysterious man there. She finds out about this whole world that she didn't even know existed, found out about a prophecy that deals with her, and the story goes from there. This is a dark fantasy romance, and it is adult, but it is so good. Our girl is on a quest to try to save the kingdom. Nothing is as it seems. Everything they've been told is a lie. What could go wrong here? I loved this book. There was just so much angst and so much will they, won't they, and just so many things about this book that I loved so much. But definitely check trigger warnings because there are some pretty dark scenes as, attempted sexual rape, a bunch of different things. So just make sure that you check the trigger warnings before going in. And then the final book that I do not own yet is the Zodiac Queen series by Gemma James. This is a very dark romance. You really need to check trigger warnings before you go into this series. But season 1 is made up of the first 3 zodiac signs. You have Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, I think. I don't know my zodiac signs very well, but they're like 100 to 120 pages of, just a little novella, but there's 3 of them into one, so it makes like a 300-page book. It is about our girl who is raised as a princess, and she is going to be taking over her kingdom. However, her parents are killed in a plane crash, and so her uncle is like regent until she becomes of age. She meets these different boys whenever she's younger, like 13, 14 years old, and doesn't really know who they are, but nonetheless, she is betrothed to somebody as she overhears. Now that she is 18, she is on her way to what they call Zodiac Island. She has no idea what she's about to get into, but our girl has to spend every month of that zodiac sign with that guy, and they basically can do anything they want with her except sleep with her. It gets very dark, very gritty, very emotional. There's also a mystery going on, and I can't really give away anything because I don't want to ruin it for you. But if you are a very dark romance girly and you want to see what this is all about, please go check it out because I am desperate for October to get here to get the 4th and final season. All right, now that we have all of the non-physical books out of the way, I have 4 left. And do you know how hard it was to pick just a few of my favorites from the first 3 months of the year? Like, it was difficult, extremely difficult. But let's talk about Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. I did not know about this until a booktuber who I watched was raving about this, said that it was one of their favorite fantasy romance series of all time. I was like, I need to see what's going on, right? I dive into this world not really knowing much, and oh my goodness, does Penn Cole really just hit the ground running with this. The world building is good. The character development is good. I'm really invested in the politics. Our girl is a healer and she is a human, and she gets into the castle where, the non-humans live, and basically she is healing there, and she makes a couple boo-boos, and there are this rebellion group that, tell her, if you get such and such secrets for us, blah, blah, blah. So she is just kind of on a quest, and she is learning so much of what she was told and what she was brought up to believe isn't exactly the truth. And who is she learning it from? None other than the prince. And this is a super slow burn. You can tell that there's angst, there's tension, and I can't wait to get into the second book. So if you are looking for a really good fantasy romance series that is about to be finished this summer with the 4th and final book, definitely pick this up. I do not regret it one bit. The next book was actually a surprise for me because I had pre-ordered this and then read what it was about, and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this, because as much as I like to have witches in my books, I'm not really a big fan of like witches being like the main focal point. I don't know why. It just doesn't interest me, I guess. The book that really caught me off guard was Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. I cannot believe how much I love this book. This is a witch and a witch hunter fantasy romance. It's enemies to lovers. Oh my goodness, so many good things out of this. I can't wait until the second book comes out. But basically, our girl is a witch, and she is trying to save all the other witches in her village. So there are witch hunters, which none other than one of the dashing witch hunters is a pretty like hyped up bachelor. Like, people want to be with him, but he doesn't date. So she decides, hey, if I try to woo this guy and I date him and go over this facade, then I can find out things about where they're keeping the witches and stay ahead of the game. But none other than the witch hunter is doing the same thing in reverse, because he thinks that if he gets close to her, then he can find out who the Crimson Moth is. And they both are using each other, but they end up falling for each other, and then things happen. You guys, this was so good. The world building was immaculate. I loved the characters. I loved the story. I loved everything about this, and the way it ended was painful. It made me want the second book immediately. The next book will not come as a surprise to anybody, but that is Blood Orange by Karina Halley. Oh my gosh, you guys. I know I've talked about this series so much, but this is the first book in the Dracula duet, the second book being Black Rose, which I just recently finished. But basically, you are following our girl. She's a witch hunter. Nope, I lied. She is a vampire hunter. And she is tasked from this order of vampire hunters that she needs to go and track down Dracula. Yes, the Dracula. The guy that Bram Stoker had wrote his book about so many years ago. And so she is in Italy. She enrolls in a college. And she is trying to get close to who they call Dracula. His name is Valtu. And things kind of hit off with them. They start falling for each other. There is kind of a subplot going on where she had lost her memory. So she's starting to get them back, but she can't let him know who she is, because if she does, he will kill her because she's a vampire hunter. So many different things, you guys. This was so good. And then whenever I finished it up and I wanted to go on to Black Rose, I found out that actually, even though they are standalone duets or standalone books in this series, everybody interconnects. So if you want to dive into this world, then I highly suggest reading Black Sunshine and This Blood is Love. It's the first duet, which you do meet the characters in here. Also, there is a standalone that goes in between that duet and this one, which is called Night Wolf, which will be very impactful for Black Rose whenever you get to it, the second book in this duet. You guys, Karina Halley has made a paranormal fantasy-esque romance so good. It is dark, it's gritty, it's gothic, it's everything that you would want in a vampire romance. The last book that I'm going to talk about is kind of controversial right now. Like, there are people that are saying this book is terrible. There's also people that love the book. So I am one of those that loved this book. However, I don't feel like it is for everybody, because it can be slow, or maybe you're not really into the story. So let me just tell you what it is. It is A Fate Inked in Blood by Daniel L. Jensen. This is a Viking fantasy romance. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am in my Viking era, because before I picked this up, I was watching, and still currently watching, The Last Kingdom on Netflix, which deals with like Uhtred and the Vikings and all of that. And it's really, really good. My husband and I are about to finish that up and then watch the movie that comes afterwards to wrap up the whole storyline. But I am a huge Vikings fan. I have watched so many Viking shows, Viking lore, Viking mythology. So I think that really had a hand in me liking this story. I don't think that if I liked Vikings as much as I do, I don't know if this story would have hit the way that it did. But basically, our girl Freya, she is a shield maiden, and she is like blessed by the gods, right? She has a drop of a god's blood whenever she was born. And there are people in this world that have drops of different types of God's blood. And they are like the chosen, the ones that people, always want and, want them on their side. So Freya is in a loveless marriage, and she gets out of it because she ends up being one of the Viking lords. I can't remember what they call him, but basically his second wife, but they don't sleep together. But his son Bjorn is told to basically like stay with Freya, keep her safe, and there's a romance between her and Bjorn. And you go through this whole thing where they talk about the Viking gods, Norse mythology. They talk about different things like the raiding and, how the raiding happens and all of these different things that are true to Viking lore. That is why I loved this book. I ate it up. I couldn't stop. My husband went and picked this up for me. He didn't know that I had the Bookish Box edition or the Fairy Loot edition. One of the two. Anyway, I absolutely loved it. I cannot wait for the next book in this series. But I will tell everybody, if you are somebody who doesn't really like Vikings or Vikings don't interest you or you're not into that type of lore, I probably wouldn't suggest picking this up because I really don't think that you're going to enjoy it to the level that I think that you should. So I feel like Danielle L. Jensen as an author really cornered herself in the market where you're only going to have so many people that are going to really like this story, and you're going to have a lot of people that don't, because not everybody likes Vikings. Not everybody likes, Norse mythology or anything like that. So I feel like she really cornered herself here whenever she structured it really heavily on Norse mythology. That's just my take on it, but I ate it up. I loved it. If you like The Last Kingdom, if you like Vikings, that was on, what was it, the History Channel or the Travel Channel that had Ragnar and everything in it. If you like that type of story, romance, whatever, you're going to eat this up. Don't delay. Go pick it up now. All right, everyone. So those were the 7 books that I picked out that are some of my favorites. You will notice if you are following me on Goodreads, not every one of these books got a 5-star because maybe it got slow in parts, or maybe I felt like there were certain situations that were underdeveloped. However, regardless of them being a 4 or a 5-star, these books have left a lasting impression on me. I think about them constantly. I can't wait to get my hands on the next book or a book that is similar to it. So I don't know. I feel like I had kind of a mixed bag at the beginning of the year. Let's hope that for the next quarter, I get some really good reads out of it. But if you are still here, please leave me a comment below. Let me know what some of your favorite books this year are. Let me know if there's any books that maybe should be on my radar, depending on the books that I like. But I hope everyone has a great day. Please make sure that you head on over to the community tab, make someone's day, and give them a book. It doesn't have to be me. It can be anybody that is posted on there, or post your own wish list, and maybe someone will gift you a book. But I hope everyone has a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye!